Revenge films.
My name is Nico, and I'm an ordinary office man blessed with a wonderful wife and daughter. My wife, Olivia, who is a housewife with a part-time job, is the firstborn daughter of the family. And soon after marrying her, I registered into her family. She has a younger sister by the name of Giselle, and she married her academically elite boyfriend soon after graduating college. But in reality, she was an unnaturally tedious ruffian. She was never that person in the past. She was as kind and civilized as her older sister. But ever since she married her husband, utterances that were, in academic terms, extremely biased became much more frequent. In other words, she started to unrightfully judge people based on their education. And frankly, a lot of what she says now can be considered offensive.
What university do you go to, Mr. Nico?
I went to a university in New Jersey.
Oh, is that so? Then I must say you're pretty lucky to have landed a job at your company now.
Maybe I was. It's such a shame how a nice girl like Giselle suddenly became academically prejudiced, if you get what I mean. Perhaps her husband's influence was so strong she started to consider everything and everyone around her based on how elite they were. Every single time her mouth opened, out came the same annoying stuff, like the educational background of someone will become more important in the near future, or that only people who are smart enough can get good jobs, or something like that. Behind the curtains, perhaps she wants to brag about her husband who graduated summa cum laude at a top-level university and is on his way to great success. But it's far from being anything pleasant to listen to. I didn't graduate from a top-level university, nor was it a high-level university for that matter, and neither did Olivia, so we really couldn't say anything back to her.
My husband's getting promoted again, so he's pretty busy these days, but I'm proud of him.
What else can we expect when she stops by but the same stupid bragging bullshit? Additionally, perhaps her husband makes a lot of cash. She always pays us visits wearing expensive brands of clothes, shoes, bags, and jewelry. She pushes all the work of caring for their elderly mother onto Olivia, her sister, and doesn't do shit to help. She was always off gallivanting with her pockets full. On occasion, Olivia tries to talk to her about their mother and her need for attentive care. She replied,
"She's living with you guys. You take care of her? Why do I have to help someone out if they aren't close to me anymore?"
She was literally less than useless. Olivia's mother, Patricia, my mother-in-law, is 80 years old, and in addition to the wear and tear of her elderly body, her spouts of brain fog also became more apparent recently. Balancing her part-time work with taking care of Patricia proved to be extremely hard for her. Of course, I help her out as much as I can, but even then, it seems like we're short a few helping hands. We truly wanted Giselle to help us out when we needed it. Otherwise, we wouldn't ask her, considering how she is as a person. However, I had another concern. It was about my daughter. Dahlia is in her final year of high school, and she's preparing 24/7 for the SATs. Whenever Giselle visited us, she would always be telling her niece something, and I always assumed the worst. Oh, hell. That Karen's telling Dahlia something completely bonkers, I'll bet. This was a great concern for me. The last thing I wanted from my daughter was untrue information that could potentially change her personality for the worse, just like what happened to Giselle. That could be a source of stress and pressure, I thought. But Dahlia assured me.
It's all right, Dad. She hasn't told me anything too bad, and you can trust me on that.
Oh, good. Seemed like she didn't pay any attention to Giselle's words. She wasn't able to go to her preferred high school because her scores simply weren't high enough, and she's going to her current high school as her second choice. Upon knowing that she failed going to her high school of choice, Giselle stopped by, and as you would expect, she made everything worse.
That's too bad, sweetie. It'll be a hard life for you if you don't graduate from a good high school, you know.
I wanted to slap her in the face, but I was in no position to, because I wasn't very successful both in my studies and in my current job. I tried to make it harder for Giselle to come over, but perhaps she had too much free time. She stopped by quite frequently.
You gotta get the spirit up, sweetie, and study harder, just like my George.
If you're stopping by this often, at least help out with taking care of your own mother. We don't need all this goddamn useless bragging, is what I screamed at her in my mind, but not out loud. Now, I'm a son-in-law taken into their family, and thus my say in the family is pretty low on the list of priorities. I was ashamed of how powerless I was against such stupidity. Such was life when one day we heard that Dahlia passed a good university. Congratulations, darling! I'm so proud of you! You did your best! As a family, we celebrated hugely for her accomplishment, and because of her past failures regarding high school, we were all the happier that she could pass her first choice for university. But then Giselle showed up. Now, how in the world did she get the memo?
Oh, Dahlia, dear, congratulations. Thanks.
It's her big day, goddammit! Why are you gonna ruin that too? But as you could probably guess by now, I wouldn't dare say such things and let her inside the house. Although we didn't plan for it, nor was she invited to stay for dinner, she did. All things considered, it seemed like George was away on business for a while, and Giselle started to drop in unannounced partly because she was after a good meal.
That's amazing. You got into your university of choice. Well, I guess.
As usual, she started to ramble on and on and on about academia and whatnot. Please, I'm begging you, stop talking about this. Dahlia's finally free from such hard work and she's achieved something incredible. Just stop, please. I try to convey these thoughts to her by kindly saying, well now, her exams are all finished and she got into a good school. So maybe we can lay off the academia talk tonight.
No way. We have to think about her future. That's exactly the kind of attitude that'll never get you beyond an ordinary office man.
Damn, that hurt more than I thought it would. I couldn't say anything more afterwards. I mean, it's true that because I wasn't too hard working that I didn't do amazing in my studies, and that I don't have a high-status job. I just want my girls to be happy. Did Giselle's words have a hint of logic in them? Could it be that I'm in the wrong here? My mind was hitting DEFCON 4 at this point. But then Dahlia, who hadn't been speaking much until then, opened her mouth and said,
Auntie, where did Uncle George study university and faculty? George? It's a famous place, so you probably know it actually. He graduated from the Faculty of Economics at Berkeley. If only you could go to such a high-ranked place too, honey. Such a shame.
Oh, is that so?
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing. I applied for that as my second choice, so I know it's pretty prestigious.
Huh?
Dahlia just said that as though it wasn't of any importance as she calmly ate her dinner. I could literally see the loading screen of Windows 7 hovering over Giselle's head as she was frozen for a couple seconds. But then her tone took an aggressive turn and replied,
Huh? Then which university are you able to pass,
It isn't anything too good. Stanford.
What?
The truth was that Dahlia passed a university that was always competing for first place in ranking in the country. We knew it'd be an even bigger pain, so we never provided any details on Dahlia's studies, so she never even had a clue where she was probably going. Giselle froze again, and Dahlia dogpiled the first blow with a more shocking information.
And also, which university did you go to, Auntie?
Who, me?
Yes, you, Auntie. I'll bet it's a pretty prestigious place, too, especially since you said so many questionable things to my dad.
Lo and behold, Giselle never answered. Yep, her husband George going to a high-ranked university was indeed the truth, but Giselle herself had gone to a community college.
And another thing, Auntie, I've always wondered why you never had any children.
Well, darling, George is really busy these days, and right now I don't think it's the time to have children just yet.
Hang on, really? It's said that the more academically elite someone is, the more probable it is they're going to cheat in their relationship.
That's nonsense. My husband would never dream of doing such things.
Well, I don't have much of a good education either, so I can't say much about other people, but I don't think academia decides everything, you know? I think anyone can cheat, no matter how smart they are. It would be so funny if he actually was with someone else right now on this business trip of his, lol.
As I watched Dahlia's words turn Giselle into the biggest, palest piece of mozzarella I'd ever seen, I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders. Seemed I wasn't alone, too. Olivia sat next to me with a wide smile on her face. Since then, Giselle never talked much about academia anymore. Turns out that she had been talking smack to Dahlia about her parents' far from elite educational backgrounds, and Dahlia had resented her for that for quite some time. She did her absolute damnedest in her studies to shut Giselle up about the subject for good, and got into a famous university known for being at the top of the world. But what shocked us all the most was about George, Giselle's husband. Just as Dahlia had jokingly predicted, he really was cheating on his wife.
I'm never gonna break up with you.
Seems like he was making business trips as excuses to see this other woman. George is set on divorcing Giselle, but she adamantly refuses to sign the divorce file. So now they're in divorce mediation. My theory is, if Giselle loses George, she loses everything. Her money, her house, her belongings. And that's why she's holding on to him so tightly. And eventually, her visits dwindled away. Perhaps the legal mediation is keeping her busy all the time. See me complaining, though? Dahlia, how did you know George was cheating on Giselle?
I didn't, Dad. I just said it as a way of getting back at her because I resented her for being who she was.
Dahlia never dreamed her theory was actually right. And when she heard that he really was cheating on her, she was really surprised. Just as she said, education doesn't decide a human being. There are many people in society who are brilliant individuals, but who never had an education of very high levels. On the contrary, there are also people who had an elite education at prestigious schools, but who never excel in their jobs and eventually make huge mistakes, costing them so much in their lives. It's wrong to judge a human being based on their education background, plain and simple. What counts is dedication, effort, and persistence. And that's what everyone must acknowledge when talking about jobs and academia.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.